Who is it?
It's me, Little Mo with the gimpy legs, see? I heard you had a problem with me smooching Estelle at the Blue Monkey, right?
That a fact?
Yeah, see? We're real keen on each other, too, right? So back off, or there'll be trouble.
I'm gonna give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no-good keister off my property before I pump your guts full of lead.
All right, Johnny, I'm sorry. I'm going.
1, 2, 10. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
Welcome to a very merry edition of Good Times with Bad Movies. I'm Paul Island. Joining me as always is my holly jolly co-host, Mr. Tim Morrison. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Merry Christmas, Paul.
Merry Christmas to you too, Tim. That's right. It is December right now. Tim and I are in December with you right now. And once again, we're continuing December and we're just going through with Christmas movies all month. This episode, we're watching 1992's Home Alone Part 2, Lost in New York, from 20th Century Fox. And before anybody gets mad or upset with me here, I just want to say I love this movie. I love 1 and 2. I'm a hardcore fan. Home Alone, number 1. But this was actually Tim's pick. So Tim, if you could, I would like you to defend yourself here on this one, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that this movie is remembered fondly more so for nostalgia reasons than it actually is for being a really awesome movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this movie is absolute garbage or anything, but I think it's not a really great sequel to like the first movie. Home Alone 2 is Home Alone 1 is like way better and makes way more sense. This movie is kind of like a shoehorned sequel to me. Now, I still enjoy watching this because, that's what this is all about. But as we go along, I'll tell you the exact reasons why. The violence is upped like quite a few notches in this one compared to the first one.
Right? Okay. So this movie's amazing, though. It's so good. How could you not? Okay.
It's fun to watch.
When we get in and going on this puppy later on in the movie, some of the stuff that happens to Harry and Marv is insane. And it's hilarious. It's actually crazy, though, because it's funny that you say that there's all this violence, because I don't know if you saw this or not, but someone a couple years ago on the internet, they actually put in CGI blood and gore to Home Alone, and they made it like an R-rated movie.
That's awesome. I want to see that.
Yeah, because when he and they made it sort of real. Like, so when he throws a brick down at Marv, I'm pretty sure it just takes a chunk of his face off. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, realistically, yes.
And even that's probably an under-exaggeration as to what happens when you fall into his traps.
Yeah, realistically, Home Alone 2 would probably end with his parents having custody taken away from them. And Kevin would probably go into juvenile for murder.
Oh, yeah.
Attempted murder. At least attempted murder. At the very least, Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So if you haven't seen Home Alone 2, maybe someone out there hasn't seen it. I don't know. But I feel like we should just give you a quick synopsis and just bring you up to speed real quick before we start getting into the movie here. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
1 year after Kevin McCallister was left home alone and had to defeat a pair of bumbling burglars, he accidentally finds himself stranded in New York City, and the same criminals are not far behind.
The movie was going to be called Home Alone Again.
I saw something about that. Was it Home Alone Again or was it Alone Again?
Or maybe, it was Alone Again. Yeah. But they went with a different title because they were too afraid that it might seem like too much of a rehash of the first movie.
Well, I mean, it's the same gimmick, but you just got to find a place to do it.
It's the exact same.
Wouldn't it have been cool though if Harry and Marv had gotten out of jail, or they broke out of jail and had come back to Kevin's house to seek revenge? That would have been this hardcore version of Home Alone.
That's a little dark. I mean, not too far off from what they're doing already, I guess. But
what do you say we get going on this bad boy here and we start talking about Home Alone 2, Lost in New York?
Absolutely. So basically, this movie starts off similar to the first one. We get a little bit of a silhouette of the McCallister family home, kind of zooming out. But in this one, the whole New York City silhouette of the skyscrapers and stuff is beside it. So, it's Home Alone Lost in New York. That's what it's called. So anyways, I guess it would imply that his house is in New York, but they live in Chicago. And the movie starts out just like the last one, where the entire family is kind of running around the house in disarray. And they're all like insulting each other as they walk by each other
Yeah.
too. Like they make fun of Kevin's younger cousin because he wets the bed at night, and they make fun of Buzz's freckles, and they make fun of his sister because she wants to get a tan. Like this family, I don't know if I'd noticed it in the first movie as much, but in this one, they're not very nice to each other at all. And by the way, there's like 16 people in this family.
Yeah, in the first movie, I think she says there's 15 people in this house, and the only one that's a cop problem. So, 50, I think it's 15 people. But anyways, 15, 16 people. So yeah. Did you notice that Buzz, he calls his sister a skag? Like, that's pretty harsh. Like, they're like 14, 15.
I made a list of some of the name calling that is in this movie. So we've got sourpuss, trout sniffer, cheapskate, jerks, horse's ass, nosy little pervert, and an old skag.
The trout sniffer's hilarious. I like that one. That's great. I love I just love in the first movie when Frank's like, "Look what you did, you little jerk." In the first movie, they totally crap on Kevin, all of them. In this movie, everybody, I think they took it and they're like, "Well, it was funny in the first movie. Let's just have everyone rip on each other now." And that's kind of more of what it is, right? Because in the first movie, it's just like, Kevin, you're such a disease. You're what the French call les incompetents. But in this one, they're just like firing shots at everybody.
Yeah, they all hate each other. They're a very dysfunctional family.
And Kevin is in his mom's room, a very looking 90s room with the wallpaper, the very floral wallpaper. I love it. And he's got what was going to be sort of a key part in this, or at least it's going to play a big component in this movie.
Oh, I would call it one of the reasons for the movie.
Yeah, well, for sure. This is part of it. Was this toy called a Talk Boy? It's basically a little voice recorder that probably the size of a grown adult's palm. So like say like I don't even know, it's like a cell phone. It's probably the size of like a smartphone.
No, it's bigger than that. I had one when I was young. It's like
it's a little bit bigger than that. It's definitely bulkier than that.
Oh yeah, and it's heavy too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if some people have never held a camcorder, it's hard to explain that, but it's sort of like a little handy cam. It's about that size. If you know what a handy cam is, about that size. It's about, a little bit bigger than a cell phone, and it's just a little voice recorder. And one of the functions it has on it, which is important, is obviously it records when you talk into it, but it also slows your voice down. So, and that's kind of an important thing in this movie to realize too, that it slows your voice down as well too, which it's a very flimsy plot. It was just sort of a cheap gimmick to sell the toy, but
totally. This was the toy that he used in this movie is actually a prop.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And that's when even before I did any research on this, I'm like, that's totally, they just made this because I never saw it before when I was a kid, and then it just showed up in this movie. So I was like, what is this? And my brother had one. They were super cool. I thought this thing was awesome. The reason why everybody's in the house this year, again, is because the family is now going away to Florida instead of France. We're doing still places that start with F, it's just a state instead of a country. So one of the things that Kevin mentions is he's kind of bummed about going away to Florida because he doesn't really see it as a real Christmas thing. He likes Christmas trees, he likes snow, he likes that atmosphere. And his mom just says, well, you know what? Suck it up, Buttercup. We're going away to Florida. So
free trip, go.
Yeah, get your Donald Duck slippies. We're going away.
Nah, but he's very ungrateful about this.
So Kevin's talking to his mom, and she kind of lets him know a couple things. One, she's got him this weird, creepy, inflatable blow-up clown.
Yeah, he got it from his grandmother.
That's right. So his grandmother sent him that, and he can play with that in the pool when they go away to Florida here. And the other thing is, he needs to go get his tie now from the bathroom, where currently Uncle Frank is there right now.
And Uncle Frank told him that if he ever walked in and saw him naked, that he would ever grow up feeling like a real man. And I was like, when I was young, I honestly never understood that at all. And when I was watching it today, it's the first time I kind of remembered. When I was watching it today, I was like, is he making a big penis joke? Yeah. Is that what that's totally all about?
Dude, I'm telling. Okay, sorry. Right now, maybe I should have asked you at the beginning. I don't know who your favorite characters are in this movie, but to me, Fuller and Uncle Frank are the total scene stealers in 1 and 2. They're hilarious. Frank is like low key, just like cutthroat, and he's so funny. He's just hilarious.
He's a really animated character.
Yeah, I love this guy. I love Frank. I love Uncle Frank. If this is my uncle, I would love any Christmas event, any sort of family event where I just got to show up and just watch him go would be hilarious.
Doesn't seem like a very fun person to be around at all.
Oh no, he's a cheapskate. That's what they call him, right? So, yeah. And so Kevin walks in to grab his tie from the bathroom, And
The door's not even closed.
no, it's so weird. It's a house full of 15 people, and Uncle Frank is just in there, ass naked, singing away to Cool Jerk on the radio. And Kevin walks in, and he grabs his tie, and he kind of lingers for a second.
Get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm gonna slap you silly! Oh, you're cooking, Frankie!
How can you not love this guy?
Yeah.
One thing we should mention before we leave the McCallister house for this second here is Kevin's dad was charging his shaver, or he went to charge his shaver, and he accidentally unplugged the alarm clock. So now the alarm clock has been reset to 12 o'clock, thus nullifying any time, any sort of alarm set, apparently, for the second time now.
Because nobody in this house, out of the 15 or 16 people that are in this house, they relied on one alarm clock.
That's right. Well, that's smart family planning, Tim. When you put thousands of dollars on the line for a Christmas trip and you leave your kid home the first year, I mean, you should just rely on the kindness of your one alarm clock. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyways, so now we're gonna go ahead to their Christmas recital where Kevin. I guess is it just Kevin and Buzz that are just singing in this? Like, do they?
Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree.
Yeah, that's it. Christmas tree, my Christmas tree. That's going to get stuck in my head if I... Okay, sorry. But yeah, so it's this choir of kids, and they're singing. And this comes to this part when Kevin has a little falsetto solo, and he starts, singing away. And Buzz takes these little... He's got candlestick lights. They're all holding candles, these little candle lights. And he starts sort of drumming on his head and holding them behind his ears and stuff. And... it was kind of like that moment in Step Brothers when they sing Brendan Has a Mangina, in the sense that basically everybody starts laughing at Kevin now.
It's not nearly as funny.
No. It's not.
This isn't what he does. He just puts he's acting like he's drumming on his head. In this auditorium, completely like full of adults in the audience, are absolutely losing their minds. Like it's the funniest thing they've ever seen. And it's adults laughing at a kid being picked on.
Yeah. Basically everybody is laughing except for Kevin's parents. And just the band leader, I guess the conductor, whatever he is, he's just kind of standing there and he's just like not even reacting at all. I would be like, get off the effing stage, like I would be like losing it, but he's just not. And so Kevin realizes that he is being made fun of, turns around, shoves Buzz, and basically destroys the entire concert.
They all fall down. Everybody falls down like a set of fine placed dominoes. Like everybody falls down, and the stage starts, like the props and stuff and decorations start coming down, and Kevin is the only one left standing there. By the way, a wooden cutout of a tree falls down and slams this lady on the head. She flies backwards off of her piano bench. I would say probably about 8 feet down backwards, doing a backflip. She is probably like seriously hurt. I know when Steven Tyler from Aerosmith fell 4 feet walking forward. He got seriously injured. I can't imagine what happened to this poor old lady.
Obviously now Kevin is in hot water. So we cut back to the McCallister house, and there is Buzz. And he is given his best show trial face. He's setting up, and
he's talking like he's actually on trial, and everybody's a part of the jury.
That's exactly what's happening here. This is a bit of a show trial here. So he's presenting his case to everybody, and he's given a pretty half-hearted apology. And there's my man, Uncle Frank and Fuller, just laughing away. The boys. And I should say in this one, Fuller is drinking a Coca-Cola instead of Pepsi this time. And presumably he's still going to pee the sheets. But
that's one of the many products that are placed in this movie.
Yeah, this is just crazy for product placement. But anyways, he gives a little speech, and he says, basically, I'm sorry, guys, and it's a half-hearted speech. And as he's walking by Kevin, he is the one who calls him a trout sniffer. And he says,
beat that, you little trout sniffer.
There you go. Beat that, you little trout sniffer. And my man Kevin here, he's just basically had enough. Between last year and this year, he's just said, you know what, screw it. And he said, you know what, I'm not sorry. Because Buzz just called me a trout sniffer, and none of you guys heard it. And no one really cares, and no one takes it seriously. So, you know what? Nuts to this.
I thought that this was kind of just ridiculous anyways. Why would you put your kids on trial? After one completely caused this, probably injured an old lady for life if she even lived, and that now you're pitting them against each other to make the best speech to a family of 14 people.
Oh yeah, it's totally unfair. I mean, I would honestly been like, Buzz, you're like 16. Like you can't. You're an idiot. You're worse off than your 12-year-old brother. You should not be doing this.
Kevin McCallister is 10 years old in this movie.
Is he? Oh, because in real life, I think he's 12.
Probably.
But yeah, so Kevin runs up to his room now, and his mom says, why don't you sit here for a while and just, think about things? And he said, you know what? If I had my own money, I'd go on my own vacation without you guys, and I would have the best time ever.
Can you guess whether he's going to get his wish or not?
Yeah, I guess so, right? I mean, say it again. Maybe it'll happen, Kevin. We'll find out.
I liked in the first movie when there was actually kind of a mystery as to how it was going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, it was that first movie's so good, man. Wow, I love it's a classic. It's a great premise, and okay. Anyways, so now it's nighttime, and we're just gonna get a quick little reminder that Harry and Marv are going to be showing up in this movie because a newspaper sort of flies up now, and it hits the door of the McCallister's house.
Perfectly.
It's very ominous. Yeah, exactly. And what it says is the wet bandits escape in a prison riot. Cut to the next day with almost the identical setup again, where one van rolls by, misses the statue. The second van rolls up and just nails it perfectly and puts in about 3 pieces on the front. And once again, everybody has realized they've slept in, which brings us back to your original point, Tim, which I kind of wanted to just rant about now. It's like, that's my only problem with this movie. How is it that no one even wore a GD watch on their wrist and put a time? There's 15 people.
And I think they certainly have enough money for a second alarm clock.
Right?
Because these guys, I don't know what Kevin McCallister's dad does, but they did mention as they were rushing out of the house that I think Uncle Frank says, I hate to complain about a free vacation, but you guys give the worst wake-up calls ever. So Peter McCallister has paid for this entire thing.
It's weird, right? How does Frank not even go, you know what? I didn't trust them the first time. Maybe I'm going to bring an alarm clock. Nobody, not even Kevin, because Kevin's pretty prepared in this one too. And he didn't even think to set an alarm. And not even...
He wanted to be home alone again.
Yeah, what time did they wake up at? Because it's like the middle, is it like 6 o'clock in the morning? It's winter time, right? So it's got to be like 9 o'clock. The sun's up. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I don't know. No one woke up?
So this part of the movie really annoys me. It's all of these random little coincidences that happen all at once perfectly, just so the movie can happen. It just seems kind of like lazy writing to me. So these two families of 16 people are going crazy, rushing into the airport, and Kevin decides that it's a good time to look through his father's bag to get some batteries for his Talkboy, and ends up keeping his father's bag. And while he's rooting for the bag, everybody in the family is just running down the hall through this like incredibly busy airport. I also read that they didn't even close the airport off for this. Like the majority of these people, the people in this movie, are actually real passengers getting ready to board a plane. Yeah. So while the family is running down the hall, Kevin stops to look for some batteries, and and then at that moment, like just down the hall where his dad has just ran by, there is another person that has the same identical jacket and scarf and haircut as Kevin's father. So, and this guy immediately starts running too, but in a different direction than the rest of his family. But Kevin mistakes this guy for his father, and he's chasing him down the hall. And then soon as he gets to the stewardess to board the plane, he's kind of just runs into her, I guess, and throws all of his tickets and passports and passport information all over the place, which I've never seen anybody with that much paperwork to board an airplane. But anyways, she's like, oh, we don't have time for this. We'll just get you on the plane. You're sure your family's on there? And he's like, yeah, I'm sure. And another guy goes, he can go on, but make sure he locates his family. He gets on the plane and he still sees this guy that looks just like his dad is kind of like down the aisleway, getting ready to to sit down and get comfortable or whatever. Anyway, he just sees him from the back, and that's his father, he assumes. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. And points Kevin in the opposite direction of the plane to tell him to go sit by himself. Not verifying in any way that is actually his father. This, I would think most people would say, could easily be a lie. That's a pretty easy way to get on an airplane. Run into a person and throw your ticket information all over the place and say, oh, well, I'm going to have to go anyways.
There they go. They're off on their own separate ways, on their own separate flights. The McCallisters are going to Florida, sans Kevin without their knowledge. Kevin is on his way to the Big Apple, New York, New York.
The McCallisters have arrived in New York, and they're all standing in a lineup just gathering their luggage, and they decide to pass one down the line to Kevin. And everyone's going, pass this to Kevin. Here, pass this to Kevin. Pass this to Kevin. Until we get to Kevin's not here. And then they pass the bag back.
Kevin's not here.
What?
So that is Kevin McCallister's mother absolutely losing her mind because Kevin's not there. Now, just wait a sec.
That's so iconic.
Yeah, it is, but it's also really stupid.
Come on.
Because, okay, Paul, you're a father now. Okay, so let's go with the understanding here that at this point they do not know that Kevin was not on the plane. He's just not there at the end of the line to get his bag. Your first instinct, or your wife's instinct, would her first reaction would be to absolutely scream your child's name and then pass out? Wouldn't you be like, look around a little bit? Hey, is he over there? Did anybody see him on the plane?
I could actually see her potentially, like, I could see myself potentially passing out, being like, oh my God, what happened?
Okay,
You know,
I would
like,
say after like maybe a couple minutes of not being able to find your kid, but not like actually immediately scream bloody murder and pass out on the floor. So after Kevin's mother passes out, we segue to another airport where Kevin McCallister is kind of just walking around confused because everybody's getting off the plane, but he doesn't see his family anywhere. So he kind of glances out of the city, and I think his first thought is that this doesn't look like Florida. So then he walks over to, I guess, a stewardess or, one of the staff there, and asks her where he is. And she says, "We're in New York, sir." And then he kind of like, oh my God, I did it again. And by the way, this is just a quick random piece of trivia. That girl that he talks to that informs him that he's in New York, that's the shy girl that really doesn't say much in The Breakfast Club.
Ali Sheedy.
Yeah, which is also another John Hughes movie. So yeah, from there, he kind of says, "Oh no, I'm like, my family's in Florida and I'm in New York." And then he gets a big grin on his face. He's like, "My family's in Florida and I'm in New York." And then he decides to go into a montage.
That's right. But there is one important thing to remember here. I think we should explain. The reason why Kevin is able to at least exist right now in New York as a 12-year-old, maybe 10-year-old kid in this movie is because he took his dad's bag at the beginning to grab the batteries out of him. So inside of his father's bag, Peter McCallister's bag, is basically Peter's wallet. It's got money, traveler's checks, and a credit card. And so Kevin is going to hit the town now.
Yeah, there's a montage of Christmas music over with a whole bunch of different popular places to visit in New York. Which I think that this movie did seem like a little bit of like selling New York, like pretty hard in your face. He's at the top of the World Trade Centers taking pictures. It's kind of funny. A lot of the places in this movie aren't actually in New York at all. Except mainly like all the spots that you would know, like the Rockefeller Center and, the Plaza Hotel. And I think like maybe some of the parks and skate parks and stuff.
Statue of Liberty, Carnegie Hall.
Yeah, everything else, though, is mostly in Chicago. Yeah, anyways, I kind of forgot. But after the montage is over, Kevin McCallister's kind of like just walking around the park in broad daylight. There's lots of people around. And he sees a bunch of pigeons. And then this lady kind of turns around. She's obviously homeless. For the sake of this movie, I'm going to call her Homeless Mary Poppins. And and so Homeless Mary Poppins turns around. Because she's just covered in pigeons and she's dirty. And Kevin is absolutely horrified by this and runs away. Kevin's grown up with a wealthy family and stuff. I think he's been pretty sheltered. So he's probably not used to seeing a homeless person with pigeons all over them.
Interesting that you made the Mary Poppins connection there, because actually I think that was in Mary Poppins, there's a lady in the park who like feed the birds tuppence a day, tuppence. And that's apparently who, at least what I saw online from a little bit of, maybe it's not. Someone fact check me on this, but I think that's what they said, was that basically the pigeon lady was based on that character from Mary Poppins. So Kevin now is making his way through town, and one of the places he crosses is this fish market. And as he's going through the fish market, we see kind of stays on this truck for a second, and the door opens, and who do we see but good old Harry and Marv. Daniel Stern in this movie, I gotta say, like, even if you don't like the movie, I think you should just give a little bit of just a nod to Daniel Stern for some of the crazy acting he does in this movie. His screaming.
Oh no, I won't take anything away from his acting in this movie. He's awesome, and man, that guy has some screaming pipes on him.
He just screams for this entire movie. That's basic. He just gets abused and screams for this entire movie. It's hilarious.
And Joe Pesci is a really scary person if you're a child or an adult for that matter.
Matt, probably not now, but I bet you, yeah, if you saw Joe Pesci in 1992, you'd probably be a little intimidated by the guy. He looks like a gruff little man, you know?
I do like the part here when, as they're like kind of getting ready to get out of the fish truck, Marv is like, "You smell that?" And Harry's like, "Yep, fish." He's like, Marv's like, "No, it's freedom, man." He's like, "No, it's fish." And then they argue over that.
And so I guess one thing too we'll note here is, in the first movie, they were the wet bandits because Marv would basically, he's just a horrible guy. He would plug the sinks of each house they burgled. Then he would turn on the taps full blast and basically flood the house and like cause probably tens of thousands, if not $100,000 worth of damage to people's house with water damage.
Oh yeah, you can cause a lot of you can cause a lot of damage by overflowing things.
Oh yeah, as an adult now, when I see that, I'm like, "You prick! What are you doing? You're sick." And Harry was right. He's like, "You're sick. You're a sick individual. Like, don't do that to people. You burgled them. That's one thing, man. Don't mess their house up. Like, come on, that's a low move." But anyways, so in this movie, they are the Sticky Bandits. That's Marv's gimmick in this. He basically has tape at all points on his hand, and he just walks around and he touches people's heads or their scarves or the change in like a Santa little Salvation Army bucket, and he just steals stuff with just like it's like a Spider-Man sticky hand.
Yeah. So that's just such a weird joke to have in this movie. I feel like they could have thought of something better, but whatever. They're the Sticky Bandits now.
Maybe they're going for something goofy. I don't know. Wet. Like what's maybe they're looking for something that was sort of opposite to wet. You can't go dry bandits. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe like what is there that's like feely kind of stuff? It's wet. It's gooey, sticky. I don't know. Like they both sound bad. They both sound kind of gross. The Sticky Bandits. Sorry, I got some weird.
It totally sounds odd, man. It sounds gross.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could take that.
That's a visual. Yeah. If you've never seen this movie and you ask someone what a Sticky Bandits look like, or a set of them, 2 Sticky Bandits, what do they do?
Yeah, if you went up to someone and someone just randomly were like, "Have you seen the Sticky Bandits?" They'd be like, "What?" Okay. Anyways, Kevin is gonna show up now to the Plaza Hotel in New York here. Because at the start of the movie, when Kevin was messing around with his little talk boy, he was watching a TV show. I think it's called Celebrity Ding Dang Dong or something like that.
Ding Dang Dong. It's a fictional show.
Yeah, so I was like, what is this thing? But one of the sponsors was the Plaza Hotel. And so Kevin rolls up there and he goes, "You know what? Why don't I just go there? This is New York's most exciting hotel experience."
He replays one of the commercials that was on there. And that commercial he records that plays again in this movie from his talk boy when he's walking around the Plaza Hotel gives the number to the Plaza Hotel, which is the actual number to the Plaza Hotel.
Yes, I heard that. And apparently, I don't know if they still do this, but apparently they had a package where you could live like Kevin. And it was you got a Sunday cart and you got a backpack and like the DVDs of 1 and 2. I could only imagine that's got to, like, in the Plaza Hotel, that's got to cost like, it's got to cost a couple $100, like $500, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I would think so.
You know, just ballparking it here. So Kevin rolls up to the Plaza Hotel with his little talk boy, and thank God he's got that and his dad's credit cards, because now he can create the perfect ruse to book himself a hotel at the Plaza Hotel. Kevin goes into the lobby, goes over to the payphones, and before he goes to the payphones, he records a little message pretending to be his father. And then he is now going to call the Plaza Hotel and slow the voice down and pretend he is Peter McCallister.
Howdy do. This is Peter McCallister, the father.
Yes, sir.
I'd like a hotel room, please,
Yes.
with an extra large bed, a TV, and one of those little refrigerators you have to open with a key.
Credit card? You got it.
Okay, why does he say the father? This is Peter McCallister, the father. Like he is not to be confused with other fathers, right? Like what does that mean?
Because, I mean, like, that just, it makes it sound extra legitimate, right? You're just like, hi, I'm Peter McCallister, a father, you know? You gotta tell people, you're the dad.
The father.
I'm Peter McCallister, the credit card holder.
Credit card? You got it.
That was hilarious. That was, I love that scene. Honestly, there's so many of these like little iconic moments in this I just absolutely love. You see how he just foresaw that and he played it off perfectly?
Yeah, he's pretty clever for a 10-year-old. With that said, the staff at the plaza aren't very bright either. The first staff we meet is the concierge, played by Tim Curry. And for people who don't know who Tim Curry is, he played Dr. Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show movies. And
also Pennywise the Clown from It.
yeah, Pennywise the Clown in It. That's true.
That really goofy first movie we got. But Tim Curry's a legend.
Yeah, Tim Curry's awesome. Like he's mostly known for being like a Broadway actor and stuff, I think.
Anything Tim Curry's in, he is also like a low-key scene stealer. I'm like, this is the most entertaining guy, one of them. Especially in this movie too, because he plays one of the hotel concierges.
He has a serious hate on for Kevin the moment he sees him with absolutely no warranty. I mean, I guess Kevin is like a 10-year-old trying to check in at the Plaza Hotel, but
he's kind of the only guy in this movie who sort of has somewhat of a BS detector with Kevin. You know, he's kind of like, this doesn't seem right, but you know, we'll see in the movie. He's still also an idiot. We're going to find out later.
yeah, the receptionist swipes Kevin's credit card and he goes, oh, it worked. Like totally shocked that he actually got away with it. And I would have thought that would have maybe that would have made you a little bit suspicious of this 10-year-old.
You would think so, but he's got a real ace of a story here. He says that his dad is in town on business and dropped him off at the hotel to check in because he said he didn't want him getting into any mischief. And he also said that, you know, he sometimes gets into mischief. So better to check into the hotel and just stay out of the way. And the lady bought it.
And then the bellhop shows up and we get the peak of Rob Schneider's performance career.
I think Deuce Bigelow is, and 1 and 2. Second one I think is hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I guess Deuce Bigelow is okay, but I've never seen the second one.
Wow. We need to watch that on this show.
Rob Schneider is really good in this movie, though. So basically, Kevin gets to his room and he gives Rob Schneider a piece of gum for a tip. I thought that was...
Yeah, he gives him fruit stripe bubble gum.
Yeah. Yeah, the McCallister family seem to be a group of bad tippers.
So Kevin's ordering room service.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of food. And he's watching the sequel to the first movie that he watched in Home Alone 1. Then I think it was called Angels with Filthy Souls. And now there's a sequel, Angels with Filthier Souls.
It's a great title.
And that's a play on a really old gangster movie called Angels with Dirty Faces.
Not that it's kind of important. It doesn't really matter in the long run, but we should play you part of this just because Kevin uses this amazing tape, just like in the first movie, to sort of deflect people away from him later on in the movie.
You was here, and you was smooching with my brother. You've been smooching with everybody. Snuffy, Al, Leo, Little Mo with the gimpy leg, Cheeks, Bony Bob, Cliff. I could go on forever, baby.
Little Mo with the gimpy leg. What do you say, Snuffy?
Snuffy, Al, Leo, Little Mo with the gimpy leg, Cheeks, Bony Bob, Cliff. I could go on forever, baby. I love this movie. I love this part of the movie.
All these people are coming to his house, making out with his wife.
They were smooching. He was smooching with his brother and these like 6 other people. He's been smooching with everybody.
At this point, Tim Curry, being really suspicious, is kind of, he wants to go and see who the father of this kid and make sure it's not a ruse. So he knocks on the door, and I've always wondered this. I don't know why. Why does he use the voice that he uses? He knocks on the door, and he goes, housekeeping. What? Why does he talk like that?
Maybe he was trying to disguise his voice.
Yeah, but why?
I don't know. You could have just been like, hello, hotel. Like, why wouldn't you just want to check? Be like, hello, hotel concierge. Hello, just want to check on you guys, make sure you're okay, you know?
I wouldn't put on a whole accent for it. But anyways, he doesn't get a reply, but still goes into the room anyways. As soon as he enters the room, Kevin runs from his bedroom into the bathroom. And in the time that it takes to walk from one room to another, Kevin has set up this elaborate prank, which is like or elaborate ruse, I guess I should say, which is kind of a spinoff from the first movie. In the first movie, when Harry and Marv came to check up on Kevin at night, he set a whole bunch of cardboard cutouts of like Michael Jordan and stuff up on a Christmas train to go around the house and make it look like there was like a party going on. Anyways, over the course of, I want to say, probably 40 seconds, Kevin blows up this giant clown inflatable doll that he got earlier in the movie and rings it up to almost like basically a marionette system where he has strings attached to it and he's like kind of pulling it from side to side, making it look like he's dancing. And he's playing the portion of the recording that he took earlier of his Uncle Frank in the shower. So we've got Tim. So yeah, where this goes, Tim Curry, which again, he should be absolutely fired. Tim Curry can't find anybody in the hotel, but he notices the shower is going. Just like earlier in the film, Kevin doesn't knock. This hotel concierge peeks into the bathroom and sees a silhouette of the clown dancing in the shower. And
yeah, just like a robot. And it's what's funny too. There's like a lamp blatantly inside this shower too, just sitting here. Like that's a serious electrical hazard too. Like, what are you guys doing? Even if it's a real person, I'd be like, sir. Well, first of all, I mean, you shouldn't be in the room, but like,
yeah.
Maybe just like also don't electrocute yourself at the same time too. I mean, Kevin's 10, he doesn't know that, but
yeah. And the recording is way more fitting this time when he kind of flips the clown around to make it look like it's facing the concierge who's peeking on him. And, he says same line from earlier. Get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm going to smack you silly. And the concierge, of course, is completely freaked out that he's been caught being such a pervert and tails it out of the room and trips over, I think, a coffee table while he's doing it. And it just leaves there. It's odd. Like, I would think that he would, like, try calling or something, but there's no follow-up to that, really, until, like, the next morning.
Yeah, where is Kevin too in this scene? This has always perplexed me. Where is he's on the side somewhere?
This is like a jacuzzi tub, so it's like it has like only like two angles, like two ways to get in. So you would think that where is he? I don't understand where he's hiding either. That
like there's curtains in front, like there's like one shower curtain, and there's curtains on the side, but then you don't see anything else, and Kevin's off to the side somewhere. Like was he hidden behind a curtain? Was he? So later on that evening, Kevin is sitting in the hotel. Unbothered by the nosy hotel people. And he's kind of going through his dad's things, and he notices that his uncle Rob lives in New York. And so Kevin thinks to himself, you know what? They give pretty good presents. I'm going to go just check them out tomorrow, see if they're around, because maybe he can get in touch with his dad, or at least his family. Meanwhile, this whole time, his parents have been in contact with the police. They had to let them know for like the second time they've left Kevin stranded somewhere else.
They're also joking about it too. My kid is gone. He could be anywhere in the world. At least in the first one, he was like at home alone.
The police tell them if Kevin uses any credit cards or anything, we'll have sort of a location on him and we'll be able to let you know. Kevin's getting in his limo like a pimp now with his little plain cheese pizza. And he's telling the limo driver, hey, take me to a toy store, buddy. And so that's where he's taking him. He's taking him to not just a toy store. He's taking him to the toy store in town. This is Duncan's Toy Chest.
Yeah, and while Kevin is going around town shopping, we see Tim Curry back at the hotel, and he decides to run Kevin's credit card, and it comes back stolen. There's a really cool little transition here where Kevin's watching the Grinch, and when the Grinch smiles, it kind of fades out into Tim Curry giving a big grin because he's caught Kevin. I like that part. That's really cool. So yeah, he's walking around in Duncan's toy store, and this toy store looks absolutely amazing. It looks like the coolest place on earth to be if you're a kid.
This looks like a kick-ass toy store.
It looks like Santa's Village.
It looks like it's like 16 levels. It looks like it never stopping at all.
Yeah, there's quite a few unicorns around. Elves riding unicorns.
Is there? I guess so. And there's like little huts and houses and stuff too, as well, amongst us.
Yeah, it's almost like it looks like a little Candyland village. And we have Harry and Marv hiding in this village.
That's right. They're both in two fake houses side by side.
Prior to this, they were out skating, or they were at the skating rink, the outdoor skating rink, stealing mittens and hats and scarves from kids. And
Scarves, yeah. How did no one notice that, right?
they come up with this scheme to rob a place that sells a lot of items at a really low cost that will produce a lot of cash on Christmas Eve. Because according to Harry, they're not going to deposit their money into the banks until the next day or maybe even Boxing Day after Christmas. So midnight Christmas Eve is the best night to hit a toy store. And their plan is to go into, well, they have what they've done. If they've gone into Duncan's toy chest store and hid in the Candyland Village. And these two look like hobos, right?
Marv for sure.
And their heads, so they're just like in this, like, yeah, they're just in this like child-sized house. Both of them are sticking their heads out of a different window of each house that they're in. Like, they each have their own house. And like, nobody's even cluing in that, like, no one sees nothing wrong with this. Whenever someone walks by, they both just like freeze.
I love it. I love this scene. It's so funny, man. Like, 'cause it's just so goofy that no one would ever see two grown men, you know, one guy who looks like this like crazy Kramer looking hair dude psycho, and then this little,
He looks more like an elf than Joe Pesci. Or I guess Joe Pesci does look like an elf. Now that I think about it.
it just looks it's like this whole thing is so crazy. It's just like, it's ludicrous. Why would they be, what, no one notices? They just freeze every time, and sort of like T-Rexes are walking by, they're like, he didn't see me.
The only thing Kevin buys is like some random, I think, like fireworks and some.
Looks like he buys some goo, a map of Manhattan, a little like pocket knife, a little Swiss Army knife, and maybe some firecrackers, maybe something like that. I don't know. But he decides that he's going to give some extra money to the toy store, because what's happening is every year on Christmas Eve, the owner, Duncan, Mr. Duncan, he gathers up all the money that they get from the store and he brings it over to this children's hospital. I think it's called St. Anne's Children's Hospital. And he gives them all the money.
Yeah. I always find this funny. So I don't know if this is actually what happens, but just the image of my mind seems really silly to me, that someone would walk into a children's hospital with like a trunk full of cash and be like, here you go.
Oh, like a handful of money and just like dollar bills flying away as he's going down the street or something. Like, here's some money, guys. I got you some money.
He owns a toy store. Like, why wouldn't he just take a bunch of toys to the children's hospital? He's going to take them, I don't know, a crate full of cash. Sure, okay.
And I just love how this guy talks. He's just like, well, how are you, Kevin? It's nice to see you. He's just like this nice old-timey guy. And since Kevin decides to donate a little bit of his dad's money to the toy store, this guy says, why don't you take some turtle doves here, Kevin? Take these 2 turtle doves, you keep one, and give one to one of your friends. And that way you'll always be friends. And so that's what he did.
Yeah, that's right. He's paid for all of his things. He has his 2 turtle doves. He's exited the store, and now he's looking at his map of Manhattan. I guess he's deciding where he's going to go from here. And Harry and Marv, I guess they decided to leave their Candyland Village for whatever reason. And as they're walking out, they see Kevin from the back. And Harry is like, hey, Marv, look who's here. And they go and approach him, and they stand right behind him, shoving people out of their way as they're walking through. And as soon as they get right behind him, he goes, hey, you pal. And Kevin just like drops his stuff and turns around, and he's like, shocked that these 2 wet bandits are back somehow, through a crazy amount of coincidences, are just right here in front of Duncan's toy chest together. And Harry and Marv reach out for Kevin because I guess they're going to grab him. And right before they kind of get to him, Kevin just lets out that scream that he had in the first movie. Only this time he doesn't put his hands to his face. I wish he would have done that. But yeah, he gives his crazy scream, and they're kind of like, "Oh no, don't want to touch that. We're gonna look like kidnappers or something, right?" Which is exactly what they are. Anyways, he takes off and runs, and they give him the chase, and he's running down the street. And I don't know. There's another thing that annoys me in this movie is how much time does he have? When I rewatch this whole movie pretty much takes place on Christmas Eve. He does an absurd amount of things in one day. So, anyways. They're chasing him down the street, and I would say they're approximately 5-10 seconds behind him. He's a 10-year-old kid. They're grown men. And he stops to buy like a few necklaces of pearls and then he runs down another street and kind of breaks the necklaces, and pearls go everywhere. And just like when they slipped on the race cars or dinky cars in the first movie, yeah, they slip and fall on their asses again.
Yeah, they could have made it ice or something too. But you just brought up a good point here. Now that we're talking about this, we're actually saying the plot aloud here and discussing this. You got a good point. Why were they hiding inside the little Candyland shack if they were going to stay in there? Like, what was if they were just going in there to just scope the place out? Why were they hanging out in the little houses? Why were what? Like, you would have to get into that house without people noticing you, and then stick your heads out and then talk to each other, when you could just walk around the place like normal people and not be like super suspicious.
A smarter idea too, if that's the route you're going to go.
Just stay in there.
Maybe try dressing up like an elf or Santa.
Oh, yeah, that too. Fair enough.
Like, maybe look like you fit in.
Kevin now runs back to the Plaza Hotel, and he is greeted by Tim Curry. And Tim Curry basically grabs him by the wrist and says, I know that your credit card's stolen, bud. You're in big trouble now. And, basically, well, let's see what the police have to say about this. So Kevin sort of busts out of his hand, runs into the lobby, and the female hotel concierge is there. And Kevin runs and does this, like, he's sliding into home plate with everything he's got, goes right underneath her feet. The elevator doors magically open. He goes sliding in there, and Rob Schneider, the female hotel concierge, and Tim Curry now all collide into each other and flip out, and Kevin goes up to his room safely. As he runs into the room, so there's like, this hotel room has a couple rooms to it. So he runs into one room, and as he runs into one room, basically Tim Curry and like 5 other people bust into the hotel room now. And just as they bust in, Kevin hits them with the same gag that he hit the little Nero's Pizza guy with in the first movie, which is basically the angels with filthy souls. But this time it's the Christmas version, which is, I love this part of the movie here. This is another great part of this movie here. This is amazing, because part of the tape is the guy says, "Get down on your knees and tell me you love me." And this classic Tim Curry move is just like, I love you. I love he's such a great
Yeah, he's just
actor.
giving him a bunch of actions.
Yeah, and now he's conducting everybody. Like, I love you.
And he goes, "You got to do better than that." And then and then everybody, it was, "I love you." He goes, "You were here last night too, wasn't you?" And because Tim Curry actually was there last night, right? And peeping in the shower, and he was like, "You were here and you were smooching with my brother." And he was like, "It's like, what?" And he's like, "You've been doing it with everybody." And all those names you mentioned, except there's like an old man on the to the right of the line named Cliff. And I just like the look on Cliff's face as soon as it happens. He goes, and he looks at everyone and he goes, "It's a lie."
Which is like, I guess if they're dumb enough to buy this like videotape that just turned up really loud, it's like, could you just tell this again the TV? Like,
well, yeah, I was gonna say not to be like, this is probably like really nitpicky, but I owned a Talkboy when I was young. They don't go that loud at all.
No, it would be like this. Hey, get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm gonna slap you silly. In the movie, Johnny opens up fire on everybody, and they think there's a madman in the building, and they hit the deck. They jump out of the hotel room and just run screaming from the place.
They start doing army crawls, military crawls down the hall.
That's right, and it's a great scene. And then Kevin sneaks out the back here through the fire escape and runs into the Sticky Bandits. He runs into Harry Murph.
How did they know he was going to be there?
I don't know. Well, they saw him go in the front.
So they just stood out by the back. As if there's only one back entrance to the entire Plaza Hotel.
Well, maybe they were thinking they would sneak in. I don't really know. It doesn't really make any sense. It's just a movie. It's just a movie, okay? I don't know. Come on. I love this movie. It's great. But there you go.
Yeah, you asked me to explain myself.
Don't be too nitpicky. I love this movie, all right? God damn it. All right? We can crap on Star Wars holiday specials. You can't crap on Home Alone.
This is a lot better. This is definitely a step up.
Oh
Holy
my
God.
It's 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
There you go. So Harry and Marv are now, they've got Kevin by the scruff, and they're taking him through the streets here.
They're also just talking about shooting him. They're taking him to the park to shoot him in the face.
Maybe more people get shot in Central Park. I don't know what they're doing.
Oh, I also want to point out too, I really like they do a really good job with continuity in this movie. As Kevin is exiting the back of the Plaza Hotel, and he kind of like jumps off the door stoop. Like Joe Pesci is there ready to catch him, and you see a close up of his hand with the M for McCallister from the first movie when his hand was scalded on the doorknob.
It's a beautiful touch. That's right. And speaking of continuity, so they ran into a woman at the beginning of the movie with Kevin, and they made it look like Marv grabbed this lady. She turned around and slapped him. And so now again, we're going to run into, I think, the same lady.
Yeah, it's the same girl.
Yeah, as they're standing here on the corner now. And it's kind of funny because Kevin just goes and pinches this girl's ass now. And she turns around and sees, once again, she sees creepy old Marv standing there, and she just belts him in the face.
Smacks him.
Which is a good enough excuse for Kevin to get the hell out of there. And Kevin runs, and he hides in, I guess it's like the trunk of a hansom cab that, it's a cab that takes people around on little rides with horses through New York.
Yeah, like I was going to say a rickshaw, but that's not quite right.
No, I'm pretty sure from Seinfeld, that's what I would call it. A carriage hansom cab, something like that. Remember Rusty? Rusty! Ah! So Harry and Marv lose him, and they kind of give up on that.
By the way, but right before they lose him, well, they kind of already left him, but there's like this kind of little marching group of kids going through. It looks like it might be kids on a class trip or something, and they jump right in the middle of them and just start grabbing hats and clothes and ripping kids around and stuff. And nobody does anything. This is in broad daylight, and there's these two grown men just like manhandling these kids and stealing their stuff.
Yeah. Where's the adult responsible for this group of kids? That's a good point.
Yeah. So they're like, no worries. He's going to die here at night anyways. No one makes it in the park. So they kind of just let him be.
There you go. And it looks like, meanwhile, in Florida, they've basically, Tim Curry has gotten the card back to the police, who have gotten it back to the McCallisters. So now everybody in the McCallister family is packing up, and they're flying to New York. So meanwhile now, it's nighttime, and Kevin can't go back to the plaza, so he's kind of walking around New York here. And he's just seeing a lot of weird, creepy people out in the street, a couple of ladies of the night, shall we say, a couple people who are down on their luck sitting there, and he's, he flags a cab at one point, and this sort of gruff-looking dude turns around and scares him, and he runs out of the cab. And who does he run into once more again but the feed the birds tuppence a day lady? He runs into the pigeon lady.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so poor Mary Poppins here is hiding behind a rock, and she how do I describe this? She almost like she's just like on an elevator, like rising, like her head, because so there's a whole bunch of pigeons all over this rock, and as Kevin's staring at them, he's getting more and more afraid. And then a whole bunch of the pigeons that look like they're on the rock just start elevating. And then she lifts her head up and reveals her face. That is totally scary. But I was thinking what the hell is she doing? What is she hiding behind a rock and freaking people out, rising with pigeons on her head?
I don't know. It's like Drake coming out of the bottom of a stage, but with pigeons all over him. I don't know. Yeah, it was almost a pigeon periscope going doo 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 as it's rising, and Kevin loses his mind once again. He starts screaming, but he's got his foot stuck in a rock here, and he can't get out. And this lady comes by, and in sort of a weird, creepy way, she puts her hand almost right in his face, but then she just at the last second kind of reaches down and then helps him pull his foot out. And then he runs away, but he only runs maybe 30 feet away, and he stops for a second and goes, huh. And he turns around again, and he sort of starts speaking with the lady. He goes, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have screamed in your face. And is it cool if I hang out with you? And just sort of starts talking to the lady. And he kind of offers to buy her a hot chocolate and get her out of the cold. And she takes him, believe it or not, over to Carnegie Hall.
Okay. How many homeless people do you think there are living in Carnegie Hall?
Probably not many, but she must know, because they're up in the rafters here. So with their pigeons too.
She's got the best seat in the house. She's above everybody. She's where the lights are. They're behind the stage lighting area.
Oh my God, yeah. It's weird that she doesn't just stay in there all the time. At least at nighttime, I would be hanging out there.
I assume she did.
Maybe she does, but it's she's hanging on the park right now, and it's pretty late. To me, that would be pretty cold. I don't know why she's hanging around here. Again, I would be hanging out at Carnegie Hall, getting toasty. But there they are. They're having hot chocolate. They sort of have this moment where they have a heart to heart.
This conversation is ridiculous.
A little bit. This is kind of like the old man shovel slam conversation from the first movie where there's going to be a little bit of inspiration here, but it's kind of completely different.
The first movie was way more meaningful in what the old man was talking about. So the old man was not in touch with his son anymore because of a disagreement they had, and he just wanted to be close with his son. And through talking with Kevin, he kind of gave him some advice, and they both agreed that they both need to change. In this one, her story is incredibly sad. Like, okay, so this girl is homeless. This woman is homeless because her husband left her quite a few years ago, and she loved him so much that her heart broke so hard, and she could not she wasn't willing to risk falling in love with anybody ever again, to the point where she's so down on her luck that she is homeless. And Kevin gives an analogy about his roller skates.
It's great.
He uses an analogy of how he didn't want to wear his brand new pair of roller skates because he didn't want to them they not to get dirty or defect or something, right? So he ended up not using them, but he grew out of them. He just grew out of the skates, so he never even got to use them. And he compared that to her heart, her broken heart. This poor woman is covered in pigeons and homeless on Christmas Eve. Kevin McCallister has a massive wad of cash in his book bag.
Sorry, I should have laughed at that. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a massive wad of cash in his book bag. He could do a lot for this woman right now if he wanted to, but he does nothing. Okay, so after all that conversation, she tells Kevin that good deeds will erase bad deeds. And on Christmas Eve, they count for even more. So if you do one good deed tonight, you'll be able to erase all of the other ones. And he's sitting there with this homeless woman, and he goes, I've got a perfect idea.
He says goodbye and then leaves her in the attic to go help someone else. Do you think that when she told him that, she was thinking, hey, maybe he'll buy me a meal or something?
But he's like, no, enjoy your pigeons. See ya.
You're right, though. Instead of that, he gives her a pep talk about his roller skates.
So Kevin leaves Poor Poppins and decides to go for a stroll. And we find out that his good deed is going to be to stop Harry and Marv from robbing Duncan's toy chest.
So he runs to his Uncle Rob and Aunt Georgette's place, which is under serious renovations right now.
Oh, it's a complete teardown.
I would say so serious that I don't know how anybody even lived in this building, but because this home looks incredibly stripped down and hazardous.
Oh, they just top to bottom, they're ripping this thing up, man. It's going down.
So he has, again, how much time does this kid have on Christmas Eve? He rolls out this giant elaborate plan that he's made of, setting up traps around the house. And, he's up to the same routines as before. He's sawing half of the rungs of the ladder, making stairs weak.
And we don't really get to see what the traps do until Harry and Marv come along and trip them. But there is this awesome background song that's playing while Kevin is setting the traps. It sounds a lot like Hedwig's theme, the Harry Potter theme song.
So Kevin's family, and specifically his parents, are confronting the staff that we've seen earlier chasing Kevin around, Tim Curry and Rob Schneider and the other lady. And they're basically just calling him out, why the hell would you let a kid check into a hotel? And she's like, he had a very convincing story. And she's like, what kind of idiots do you have working here? The finest in New York, madam.
I don't know what else you do. You just, take the L on that one.
And then she decides that she's going to go search the streets of New York to find Kevin. And Tim Curry's convincing her not to. And as he's convincing her, she smacks him in the face.
She pimp slaps him hard. It's great.
And he looks like he's about to cry after his lip is quivering.
Oh yeah, look, she's no mugger is stopping this angry mom. That's not it. You can't. Catherine O'Hare is pissed.
So now we're going to the basically the showdown, the reason why anybody watches these movies.
This is so great here. So Kevin goes down to Duncan's toy test, and somehow Harry and Marv have gotten back into the little candy houses again, and it's midnight. And they're going to go out now, and they are starting to plunder the cash register. And as they are rifling through the register, Kevin shows up and he's got a little note with, I think, some money in it as well, too, in an envelope. And he wraps it around a brick. And it's basically an explanation to Mr. Duncan about why he is going to do what he is about to do. And Kevin, before he is going to, brick anything, he puts down a plank of wood and a barrel and sets it up sort of teeter-totter-like.
A catapult.
Yeah, sort of, in front of this window here. And he takes this brick and he just hucks it. And the alarm goes off and Harry comes sprinting out the front here. And what does he do? He comes and he lands perfectly on one half of this little trap that Kevin has set up here for him. And Marv comes out now, and what does he do? He lands perfectly on the other side of this little teeter-totter catapult and shoots Harry up into the air.
Oh, so like 40 feet in the air? It's insane how high he flies, like, off of being catapulted there, like, and crushes the roof of a car. He lands on the roof of a car and like crushes it.
It's amazing. I love this. If he had it dropped as high as like they show in this movie, he'd probably be really, really, really hurt. I'd probably have a broken back or spine or something. But like he could crush the windows up. But the laws of physics just don't apply in this movie.
Okay, we could go on and count how many times that they should die in this movie.
Oh, this is hardcore here.
So they chase Kevin. They put the run to Kevin, and he's running down the street, and he has a secret way to get into the house that they can't find. So for some reason, they can't find it. It's just this giant tube that construction workers would use, probably for like getting rid of garbage and scraps and all that. And yeah, Kevin goes up there, and they're just standing outside. But Kevin runs up to the roof, and one of the reasons they're chasing him is because he took their picture of robbing the toy chest. So they're chasing to get that camera back, and he's on top of the roof, and Harry and Marv, mostly Harry, is trying to negotiate with Kevin to just give him the camera, basically saying, "Give me the camera, and I won't kill you. Just toss it down."
And so Kevin says, "Hey, why don't you guys just stand there and I'll totally toss this down for you."
Direct it. How many fingers am I holding up, Marv? 8.
So that's the sound of a brick being thrown from approximately, I would say, 80 feet.
He's probably between 30 and 40 feet up. And you huck a brick at someone's face from 30 feet up, this would destroy you. You would be lucky if only half of your skull was caved in, I think.
Yeah, it hits him square in the forehead. Hits Marv in the forehead because Harry just keeps ducking out of the way. He does this 4 times.
Oh yeah, Marv here is just mercilessly bricked. This is horrible. It's funny, but it's also like, again, when the guy added the CGI to this, you realize like how severe this would actually be in real life. You'd be like, they would be dead.
So opposite from the first movie, Harry goes around the back this time, and Marv goes in the front. But they're still dealing with kind of some of the same traps. Marv walks up the steps very carefully because he's afraid that Kevin might have frozen him like in the first movie, but he hasn't. And he goes to try and turn the doorknob, and the doorknob just kind of like falls off with a string attached to it, and Marv is just like pulling on it for all it's worth until a staple gun goes off. And where does it hit him first? Hits him in the ass first?
Yeah. It hits him in the butt first because he turns around and pulls it between his legs, and it shoots him right in the butt crack. And then he turns around again, and then it staples him in the crotch, and then he falls to his knees, and then it hits him in the nose. It's like... It's amazing.
That would suck.
Oh, yeah, but like he's also a dummy too. Like when you see the string on this, and you already know last time this guy booby-trapped everything. What are you doing pulling on the damn string?
Yeah. So anyways, Marv finally gets in, and he doesn't bother looking down at all. He walks in and just keeps his head up and looks around, and he yells for Harry. He goes, "Harry, I'm in the house." And then he takes one step forward and falls like, I don't know, probably a good 15-foot drop down to the basement. Outback. I have a real problem with this one, Outback. This next trap. Okay. So Harry sees a window on the house, and he decides to jump off of a crate and onto a portion of a ladder. I guess it would be like a fire escape or something, and grab that with two hands and then swing like a trapeze performer into the window. This is Joe Pesci, by the way. But yeah, but he doesn't know that Kevin has completely lubed up this the bottom rung of this ladder with that green goo that he bought from Duncan's toy chest earlier, and he grabs it, swings, and has no momentum whatsoever, and just slides off and onto the ground. So he gets up and he walks over to the steps, shoves a couple boards out of the way, and walks up the steps. Wouldn't you try that first? Like, why did you feel like just swinging like a trapeze artist into this house when you could just slide a board out of the way?
You know, I don't know. People make unique life choices, I guess, and they're not that smart. They're the Sticky Bandits, so there you go. So Harry tries to open the door, and he tests it first to make sure that it's not going to burn his hand, and it's not. So he decides to give it an open, and he opens the door, and what happens is there is a string attached to the door that goes up to a tool bag, which is basically latched right over Harry's head facing down, and the string is attached to the zipper. So when Harry opens the door, it unzips this bag and drops probably about 80 pounds of tools on this guy's head. Like, he got crushed by a couple of big pipe wrenches in this, and just like crescent wrenches, a lot of heavy stuff that would really, really hurt. Meanwhile, Marv gets up in the bottom of the basement, and once again, Kevin has laid out more goo on the floor in this giant pile. And apparently, Marv at no point looks 4 feet in front of him, because he just steps, and he now slides on the goo and just eats it and runs into this, it's a shelf, and all these paint cans just fly down, and he is covered head to toe now in paint. It's really gross. Harry is wandering around through the main floor here, and he's just looking up everywhere because he is paranoid as hell about getting, something again dropped on him, or probably, getting lit on fire once again. But, again, stupid old Harry. He walks into a bathroom and goes to turn on the light, and it's just magically connected to a blowtorch, which lights his hair on fire again. And he goes over to the sink, and of course the water's been turned off. And at this point, he sees a toilet, and obviously the one that Kevin has poured, I think, kerosene in or something, gasoline, something like that, or his paint thinner, something. He poured something very flammable in there. And clearly a stunt double, who is a lot larger than Joe Pesci, does a full-on handstand while his head is on fire, and then slowly lowers his head into the toilet bowl. And we get this great shot from the exterior of the house, and just everything inside lights up in this giant flash. And there's smoke everywhere. And now poor Harry is just lit up. And he is just a smoking wreck.
His hat is like completely blown apart.
Oh yeah, he's just a complete smoldering wreck. It's horrible. And at this point, again downstairs, this was a pretty brutal one here. Marv downstairs gets up, and he goes and tries to dry himself off with paper towels and stuff because he's covered in paint now. And he goes over to the sink because he goes, or he thinks to himself, maybe just wash up his hands or something in his face, just get some of this paint off him, whatever, right? What he doesn't realize is that Kevin has now hooked up an arc welder to the taps. And this would legitimately kill you. This would legitimately kill you. This is sadistic. This is sadistic here, because what happens is, just a little bit of science here, for people who don't know. Basically, Marv completes the circuit here by touching either side of the tap, because they're both hooked up to either side of the cables here. And what is happening now is the electricity is going through one arm across his heart, which is super dangerous, and going through the other arm. Because when electricity, your heart has its own pulse, its own electrical pulse, and electricity going across your heart, especially what Kevin is, because Kevin is just ramping up the voltage right now, that would explode your chest potentially. Like, you would die. There's no way you wouldn't.
Yeah, this is awesome.
But here we go. I just want to play you this again. Like, we were talking about Daniel Stern making these crazy screams. I love this one scene here.
He deserves an award just for that yell. Like, that's a really awesome yell.
Oh my God. when his voice though, if anyone just hasn't seen this, when his voice ramps up there, that when it steps up an extra octave there, it's like it's a scene where it cuts to his skeleton and it's just this Marv hair on the skeleton and it's getting zapped. It is the most amazing shot of this movie.
I just like the yodel noise.
I love this movie. This is great. And, poor Marv gets up and he stumbles around and finds a rope.
Yeah, he's got the shakes pretty bad after that electrocution.
Just like in the first movie, when he pulled on the cord and an iron fell down and smashed him in the face. This time he goes, I'm going to give this one a little bit of a jiggle. And he gives it a couple of wiggles and nothing. So he goes, all right, here we go. I'm going to give it all I've got. So he jumps up and pulls it. And what happens is like a 15-pound bag of concrete comes flying down 3 stories again and crushes this guy in the head. This if he wasn't already dead, oh my God, how... He's at the very least he's seriously concussed, and this man needs to go to a hospital.
Yeah. Oh, this would kill you again. He would be dead 3 or 4 times over already. I was wondering, why aren't there any stairs or there's no way out of this basement?
Yeah, realistically, there are stairs to a basement. You can't just have no stairs. The hole in the floor is like maybe they took out the old stairs. I don't know. Why would you not have even something? You need something to get ingress and egress in there safely. But maybe they're not there yet in this point in the project. I don't know. But anyways, eventually Harry and Marv get on the main floor. Kevin has run upstairs now, and they start to run up the stairs. But this is when Harry kind of gets a little smart and goes, hey, remember last year with the paint cans? Hold on a second. So they just have this moment where they pretend to go up the stairs. They give like a little footstep stomp on the stairs. And sure enough, Kevin throws down a couple paint cans. And then they pretend like the paint cans hit them in the face. Now they think all the paint cans are, they think Kevin has basically fired everything he's got at them. So now they start storming up the stairs. What they don't realize is Kevin has this like giant iron bar on a rope, and he sends that over the edge next, and then that catapults.
This completely connects to their face.
Oh yeah, this was a haymaker. They shoots them down through this giant hole in the front entrance of the house, and they hit the ground again.
And they don't show it landing on them because that would be way too gruesome at this point.
It's I don't know. Maybe you're just feeling too bad for these guys. I don't know.
Well, no, I don't feel bad for them. Like, I know that they're trying to kill a kid here, but he is going like all out. Like, he's like going Rambo on them.
Oh yeah, this is insane where Kevin's taking this to. I don't know why Kevin just hasn't run out the front door because he's wrecked them a couple times where he could have just got away. So I know I've said this a bunch now, but this is one of my other favorite scenes in this movie here. Kevin now runs up to the top of the this house. And he has a giant tool chest rigged up to the top of the stairs with a rope on it that's attached to the doorknob again. And, of course, Harry and Marv go up the stairs again, and they pull it. And this chest now comes rocketing down the stairs. And it stays up the whole time, too, which realistically, in real life, it would just sort of topple forward over like a Coke machine and just go sliding down and hit the door with a big thud, and that would be it. But this is Home Alone.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. This thing goes down the steps like a human.
Yeah, this is Home Alone physics. So this is not totally what happens. It just stays up and just kind of rattles down the stairs. Meanwhile, there's like tools flying out of it, and there's this giant noise that's happening. And Harry and Marv have their ears to the door going, what is that? And they soon find out.
That was the sound of a tool chest falling down the stairs.
Oh my god, I love that part. That line, that Daniel Stern, that was the sound of a tool chest. I love that, because if you guys have ever seen that, their noses are just crinkled up and smooshed up like accordions there. It's this great physical gag. It's hilarious. It's just such a funny sight gag.
I kind of like cringe when they straighten their nose back out and they like you have the bones
yeah,
cracking sound effect. Yeah,
that noise. That noise is brutal. Well, there you go. So it's just enough time for Kevin to get up to the top floor and slide down this rope that he has, but he has soaked it with kerosene in the scene earlier.
He's at the top of the roof, and he's going to slide down on from the outside of the building.
That's it. And he goes down the rope like James Bond, and Harry and Marv come up. They're going down the rope now.
They're trying to throw bricks at him now too, but they can't hit him.
Which is like, I mean, they had like a whole pallet up there. I would have just unloaded all of them, but whatever.
Oh, by the way, they also have a gun.
That's true. They could have shot him probably a lot of times by now.
They could have shot him any time during this.
Oh, totally. As they're going down the rope, they sort of remark that this rope smells like aftershave, and Harry is smart enough to realize that it's kerosene, but he only realizes it in time to look down and see Kevin standing there with a lighter, and Kevin just lights his rope on fire, and it's just going up the rope, Mach 10 now, and Harry and Marv are trying to fight off this fire, and just eventually fall down again like 30 feet through scaffolding onto the pavement, and like 15, 16, 20, I don't know, a lot of buckets of paint come flying over the top now and just smash on them too.
I never really understood what all that stuff was that came down. Because they catapulted all these like paint containers, but are they full of water or?
It looks like paint thinner or like, like Varathane or stain or something like brown paint. It doesn't look good. Varnish. I think one of them says varnish on it. So it's...
Okay, yeah, it looks disgusting.
It's gross. That's right, yeah. But, again, long enough for Kevin to run away to a payphone. Now, he decides, of all times, he's going to call the police. What he could have done is he could have called the police and said, there's a guy robbing Duncan's toy chest at 12 o'clock, like right now. And like...
They're hiding in the Candyland houses.
Yeah, he could have been like, they're literally robbing the store right now. And he could have sent them over there like 5 minutes ahead of time. And then they would have shown up just in time, But he decides he's going to dispense his own justice here. And it's hilarious. So I'm not going to complain.
This movie needs to happen.
That's it. So Kevin runs away now. And he's running back into Central Park where he set up a trap. And he's called the police and said, look for fireworks. Because he's presumably got fireworks set up there. And as he's running across the street, he slips on an ice patch and just falls down. And Harry and Marv catch up to him. And they decide, let's take you into the park anyways, kid. So they're all covered in varnish now, looking super gross, just super beat up, and they take him into the park. Harry is basically going to pull out his gross, goopy, disgusting gun and basically point at Kevin now. And, he is about to shoot him when who comes out but the bird lady. And
the whole homeless Mary.
And
she's back.
She basically screams, Kevin, run. And Marv and Harry turn around and she throws a bucket of bird seed on them. And like 300 birds come out of nowhere and just attack Marv and Harry. And I don't know if you saw this too, but one of the things that I saw online when I was just looking some stuff up on this was apparently one of the birds flew into Daniel Stern's mouth at one point. That's gross.
Oh yeah, I read that. Ugh. Disgusting. Oh man.
And so again, Daniel Stern just for the 1,000th time in this movie, just screaming, just at the top of his lungs again.
I felt like it was weird when she was like up high on a rock, looking down on them when she threw the birdseed on him. And while this is going on, she's just jolly laughing. Just like completely amused and just like a heartwarming moment. But like this guy's got a gun in his hand. Like, would she be worried about getting shot? So Kevin set the fireworks off.
Yeah, conveniently he has some fireworks just in this, I don't know, in Central Park in a bush somewhere. I don't know. Maybe it was in his backpack the whole time. He must have bought that from Duncan's toy chest.
Yeah, probably. That's where the goo came from that he used in the.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So there you go. So the cops show up, and for some reason they've just taken this anonymous tip, and
do you know what they do to get the pigeon to stop? The officer just fires a gun in the air.
That scares him away.
It does. But when that happened, I immediately thought, well, why didn't the fireworks scare him away?
That's a good point, Tim. I don't know. Yeah, a little continuity hole, but that's okay.
I also think that's a really negligent of a cop to do. Like, just fire your gun in the air.
Again, yeah, I'm not a firearm safety expert, but I don't think you're supposed to just shoot your gun randomly in the air because that bullet will eventually come down, and So, but there you go. So the cops show up just in time to pick up Harry and Marv, and they find Polaroids of them inside Duncan's toy chest, and they have a little cassette from Kevin. I think it says something like "bad guys saying they'll kill me" on it. is what it's labeled. Just pretty funny, and it looks like sort of like an adult handwriting, but we'll go with it. And basically, I mean, we're pretty much at the end of the movie here, and basically Marv is just again a stupid criminal. And sort of admits to everything as he's being taken away here with Harry. Yeah,
and now we're at his mother, still wandering around downtown New York, looking for Kevin. And she stops to ask a cop what he's doing, or if he's seen her kid. And he's like, "Did you report it?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, we'll handle it." And he's just like sitting there, and she's like I need to find him now. And the cop is just like, you'll find him, just put yourself in his shoes. And she immediately remembers how much Kevin loves Christmas trees. So he's got to be at the Rockefeller Center, and where I guess they have this giant Christmas tree.
Yes, like the biggest Christmas tree in New York. Yeah, it's huge. So if you were looking for a big Christmas tree in town and your kid was lost, it's a good spot.
So I would call this the last most ridiculous coincidence in the movie. There, she's right. Kevin is out in New York at probably 3:00 in the morning at this point, standing under a Christmas tree. And just as soon as he asks the Christmas tree to bring his mother to him, she's there. Like, bam.
Boom. Christmas wish granted.
Wrap that up right quick. Yeah, and they apologize to each other, and it's a little sappy hug moment. And yeah, we're going back to the Plaza Hotel on Christmas morning. So Buzz gives this little speech where he's like, well, thanks to Kevin, if it wasn't for you screwing up again, we wouldn't get to be here in New York together, and like kind of switches it up, right? But like, why are people blaming Kevin for, like, I feel like that's another thing with this family. They don't take any responsibility whatsoever. There's 16 of them together. Like, they couldn't work together to get this one kid that they left behind the year before.
Not even that. They literally all could. There's 16 people and only one alarm system for this entire trip. But there you go. But Kevin realizes that he's got these two turtle doves, and he figures he's gonna go out. He's gonna go out and
yeah, this is great. This is so nice of Kevin.
He's gonna give old Mary Poppins one of his little turtle doves.
Kevin is just so generous, so thoughtful. This homeless lady probably has like hundreds of pigeons following her around, and now she's got a fake wooden one. It's a shame that it's made out of wood. She could have saved it for later and ate it for a meal. And isn't anybody wondering where Kevin is? Like, he just left?
That's a good point. Not even that. It's like, wouldn't the family be like, you're not leaving this hotel by yourself, considering we just lost you for the second time? Like, you can't run around New York by yourself. What are you doing? Stop it.
Yeah, like, get away from that pigeon lady.
But there you go. So they have a little hug, and the pigeons fly off, and it's this nice little crane out shot. And
oh no, there was one thing. No, Kevin's father screams at the top of his lungs so that they can both hear that he just spent basically $1,000 on room service for a night. And then Kevin runs away. And that's where the movie ends. It's like, he just got, I just thought that was insane that he just decided to run away.
I think his dad could be fair enough. I think his dad could be at his wit's end with that, because he's probably spent tens of thousands of dollars at this point. So, you know,
this is like, yeah, this is incredibly hard to estimate how much money they actually spent, but a lot.
Yeah. So an extra Gino on top. You can't be happy about that, you know? But there you go. So that is Home Alone 2. And I love this movie. And like this, I watch this movie every year, dude. I love watching this movie. It's so fun.
You know, I still like the first one like way more. I enjoy watching this mostly just for Marv and Harry's stuff. Like, I care less about what Kevin McCallister is doing, just because there's nothing new.
Yeah, I guess so. In the first movie, even in this, I think Macaulay Culkin as like a young little kid was really fun to watch. It was really fun.
Right. He seems more like a brat in this movie.
He's a little more grown up in this. I see what you're saying. There are little character flaws, but honestly, I think everybody in this movie is so funny. Like I said, Frank is hilarious. Fuller is just like low key funny. Just these little like nods he does, like these little eyebrow winks he does. And
they're all excellent actors in this. And like, none of my issues with the movie lie in the acting or the characters really much at all. It's just mostly all of these coincidences just for this movie to happen. It just seems like, you guys, it's like a year. This was a success last year. We got to make this out like soon, in time for Christmas. Within a year and a half. Like, I think this movie didn't take too long to record compared to a lot of movies.
Yeah, I think they wrapped up filming in like April or March or something. They had it out for like November. So it was but, and I also heard that they wanted to shoot 2 movies at one time, but the studio wouldn't do it because they realized that Kevin was aging, right? And they were like, we want to get this before he gets a little bit older, which is like, you could have done the movie the next year after, because Home Alone 3 came out in like 1997. They waited like 5 years. So it's like, of course Macaulay Culkin grew up. You could have done it in 1993 or 1984 and been like, here you go. Even if it sat on ice for a year or two, just like release it later instead of just the abomination we got with number 3.
Yeah, they got to sell those talk boys.
Before we go any further, we do have, just to let you guys know, we have YouTube where we put up the full episodes every other week. We also put up clips from the show that we cut to. You can find the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts as well too. Please check it out. Subscribe, like to any one of these things. Give us comments, something. You can find us on Instagram too. Even if you don't like it, tell us we suck. We'll take some hate mail too. Just get at us, and we want to hear what you think. All right, Tim. So now that we've gone through this movie once again, is there any way you see this movie being redeemed for yourself, or you're like, I don't like this?
Oh no, I still feel the same. But like I said, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I dislike this movie. I just have a lot of issues with this movie. I don't enjoy it nearly as much as I did when I was little. But I feel completely different about the first one.
Fair enough. I mean, honestly, for whatever reason, maybe I'm still a juvenile at heart, but I love this movie.
I'll still watch it every Christmas. It's great.
The first movie is legendary. It's great. It's on its own. It's amazing. It could have just been a one-off, and we want to hear what you guys think too. So please let us know if you like this movie, or if you think Tim's right, or if you think Tim's wrong. Let us hear it, because I would love to just give Tim a bunch of angry replies, showing him that he's wrong. So someone let me know. So all right, I think that's pretty much it for this episode then.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, one final note, and then we'll let you guys go. I swear. It's obviously the holidays, and Tim and I are going to be taking a little break for a couple weeks here. So we're starting back up January 13th in the new year. That's 2021. We'll be sliding into your podcast DMs. So everybody have a safe and happy holidays, and we'll see you back in the new year. But before we go, we're just going to leave you with a little bit of sentimentality from Uncle Frank.
Get